As I'm sure you've noticed, there are still a lot of mosquitoes out there, even though it's late summer, early fall. Usually the bites fall off by now. But it's been a rainy summer with plenty of puddles still around where mosquitoes breed. This all means a greater chance of mosquito-borne illnesses. We look at one of them that attacks horses, but also can be dangerous to people. The details on Eastern Equine Encephalitis on today's Story of the Day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from Pearsall Wealth Management at UBS Wealth Management USA, subsidiary UBS AG, member FINRA SIPC, 1 Broad Street, Glens Falls.
Hey, I'm David Sommerstein. It's Monday, September 18th. First up, state lawmakers are calling for a veterans home to be built in the North Country. There are currently 4 state-run veterans homes in New York State. They're for older, retired veterans who need more medical care. But the nearest one to the North Country is in Oxford, north of Binghamton. Patrick Rourke, the chaplain at the American Legion post in Norwood, told WWNY-TV that's too far.
I know of cases where the spouse went every day. Going to Oxford from here every day it's a gross impossibility.
New York State Senator Mark Walczyk and Assemblyman Ken Blankenbush say there are about 20,000 veterans living in Jefferson, Lewis, and St. Lawrence counties. They recently sent a letter to the governor's office asking for a veterans home to be built closer to the North Country. They also sent a letter in 2021. Several North Country horses have tested positive for Eastern Equine Encephalitis this summer. The virus is spread by mosquitoes. So far, no human cases have been reported in the region or throughout New York State. Champlain Valley reporter Kara Chapman spoke with health and horse experts about the disease.
Eastern Equine Encephalitis, known as Triple E, is a rare but serious disease that can cause brain inflammation. In the North Country this year, 3 horses in St. Lawrence County and 1 each in Franklin and Clinton counties have tested positive. Karen Lassell is the equine manager at the William H. Minor Agricultural Institute in Shazy. She says the disease causes horses to have a fever, go off their feed, and experience neurologic symptoms. Those are things like an inability to swallow, loss of balance, and tremors. It can also be fatal for them.
And ultimately, it is a not treatable disease. So the only way we can treat for it is to prevent it with vaccination.
Lassell says the Minor Institute vaccinates its horses against Triple E every year.
So I'm not terribly afraid of it all the time, but certainly I'm aware of it being local and had been wondering with the mosquito population being seemingly higher this year than recent years.
Can you talk a bit about that, like how the case numbers in the region for this year compared to, previous years?
I've spoken with both our local veterinarians, so we use Palmer's Veterinary Clinic here in Plattsburgh, and then as well have communicated with Dr. Smith, who is a state veterinarian with Ag and Markets, and she covers the northeast region of New York State. And certainly there's always a few cases each year. There's definitely been a few more so far, and they've come further north and east in the state than they have in a long time. So, that's kind of definitely put us on a little bit higher alert.
One of the most recent cases we've heard about was the horse in Schuyler Falls testing positive for EEE, and Schuyler Falls is in Clinton County, like Shazy, where the Minor Institute is. So does that worry you at all or change anything about the day-to-day, or because, your horses are vaccinated, are you pretty comfortable with that?
Well, certainly pretty comfortable with our vaccination status. Our horses are vaccinated annually, and we do it at a time in the spring such that hopefully they're hitting peak immunity about when the mosquitoes are really also hitting their peak of the season. We do also put fly spray and bug repellents on the horses that are outside at times. And then, we always are keeping an eye out for any horse that looks like they're behaving a little bit differently, because there's other mosquito-borne diseases, too, that can happen this time of year, or other bug diseases. So we'll be watching for if any horse certainly decides not to eat or just seems lethargic or depressed. We're going to jump in really quickly to try to figure out what might be going on.
I'm wondering if you've heard, why this year in particular. I've heard it described as like actually a banner year for EEE, not just in New York, but also Vermont and other like northeastern states. Have you heard about what's causing it?
Most things that I've read or seen about that is definitely the mosquitoes, that it's been warmer and wetter than it has in recent years, and we just have a overflow of mosquitoes. So we have, the ability to transfer it is moving that much farther and faster than normal years.
Still, even though New York has seen several triple E cases in horses this year, there haven't been any human cases. According to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, there's an average of 11 in the whole country reported each year. So far in 2023, there have been 6, all in southern states. Like with horses, triple E can cause a variety of symptoms in humans. Molly Flynn with the Clinton County Health Department says those can include fever, vomiting, seizures, behavioral changes, or coma.
Typically, if you're under 15 or over 50, you're more likely to develop a severe form of triple E.
But unlike for horses, there's no human vaccine for triple E. There are also no medications to treat it. Flynn says it is very rare. There have only been 8 cases in New York State over the last 20 years. But it's still worth protecting yourself from mosquito bites. Flynn says that's not just using insect repellent and covering your skin when you're outside.
Make sure that all the screens in your home on the windows and doors are free of rips, tears, holes, things like that to keep them out of your home. And a really big one, especially this summer, because it's been a very wet summer for us, is eliminating standing water in and around your home. That's where mosquitoes breed. So they actually lay their eggs in water, and those little baby mosquitoes grow up in the water environment. It takes about a week. So you want to make sure you're eliminating the standing water weekly around your house. So that means your roof gutters, make sure they're draining properly. You're cleaning them out at least a couple times a year. You want to turn over and dump the water out of anything that holds stagnant water in your yard. So spare tires, buckets, planters, kids' toys and pools, bird baths, flower pots, trash cans, those kind of things, because that standing water is where those mosquitoes are actually going to breed. And then clearing the vegetation and waste from the edge of your ponds.
And Molly, so it's my understanding that, Eastern Equine Encephalitis, it can be pretty serious, but it's still pretty rare. You said that there haven't been any cases in New York State this year. There have really only been like a couple handfuls over the past couple decades or so. So how worried do people really have to be about getting it?
So again, you're right. It's rather rare, but it is pretty serious when it does happen. It's certainly something that comes up every summer that we want to make sure that we're aware of. And it's just really another good reminder that we have those vector-borne diseases in our area, so things that are transmitted by mosquitoes, by ticks.
Flynn says those tick-borne illnesses include Lyme disease and anaplasmosis. She says Clinton County is seeing more human cases of both, and part of the reason is climate change.
Now that our winters don't get as cold, more ticks are surviving through that winter season, which means they're around again in the springtime, and they're a little bit older, a little bit bigger. So we're seeing an increase in ticks in our area and subsequently tick-borne illnesses.
Flynn says mosquito-borne diseases, like triple E, may also increase as warmer fall temperatures extend their season. Kara Chapman, North Country Public Radio.
We have more news all the time on our website, ncpr.org. If you love the regional news you hear on Story of the Day, but maybe you can't always catch it at 5:48 during All Things Considered, subscribe to it as a podcast. It'll show up on your device of choice automatically every weekday around 4 p.m., and you can listen whenever you want, even binge a bunch of them to get your fix of what's going on in the North Country. Subscribe to Story of the Day in your podcast app of choice or go to ncpr.org/podcast for more details. Music today by the Saranac Project of Saranac Lake and Oscar Sarmiento of Potsdam. I'm David Summerstein, North Country Public Radio.